So recently, Critical Role has been the forefront of the TTRPG community's conversations, mostly because their third campaign is airing, actually tonight. It is Thursday, and they are going live tonight with their brand new campaign, but also there are a few other reasons. Now, while the hype for this campaign was building, it caused me to go back and reflect on Campaign 1, and that caused a question to form in my mind. What do I think the best moment of Critical Role is? Now, while I can't say what the definitive best moment is, I can pick my favorite, and the more I researched that topic, the more clear it became to me that it was the Bard's Lament. Massive Campaign 1 spoilers ahead. If you don't want it spoiled for you, then leave. Now's your only chance. If you have seen it or you don't care, then hey, fucking welcome to the rest of the video. Now, if you have seen all of Campaign 1, or at least a majority of it, you probably know the moment I'm talking about. The Bard's Lament, episode 85, is a very crucial part of the first campaign. It's sort of the sweet spot between arcs, where they have just accomplished something massive, and also don't know exactly what they're going to head towards next. Now, the specific moment I'm referring to is the moment in episode 85, which I'm sure you've guessed at this point, is when Scanlan confronts the party about the things he's been feeling over the past few months that have been building under the surface. Now, whenever I discuss this moment with other fans of the show, some of them tend to mention that it seems to come out of nowhere, or that it's just for Sam Riegel to switch characters to Taryon Darrington as he does at the end of the episode. Weirdly enough, I do have to agree with them. It does come out of nowhere, and that is very much the point and strength of the moment. That's not to say that there's no evidence for it, but it's easier to see in retrospect. I mean, part of the reason I'm making this video is to go through that evidence here right now. Scanlan lighting. Boom! It's not purple enough. Blam, that's better. Now, in order to completely understand why this moment works so well, there has to be some things set up, so I'm going to give a brief summary of some setup. I'm not going to go through the whole campaign, just a few bits. In doing my research for this video, I was actually able to narrow down the starting point to one moment. And that's when Scanlan meets a gnome named Kaylee. Kaylee is in fact Scanlan's daughter, one he did not know he had at the time, and apparently had a long time ago with someone named Sybil.
You know, I've heard most of these stories. My mother. Sybil.
Who?
Sybil, a fine gnomish lass. She came across a smooth silver-tongued flautist who blew through like the wind and disappeared. Left her a child to raise on the income of a quilter, she did.
I
practiced. I stole. Lied about my age and eventually paid my way into the Duke's College so I can find you. Prove you a scoundrel. She begins to draw a small blade from her side.
Oh my god!
Her face is hardened and still as she stares at you. You see a slight tremble in her hand. This day, Scanlan Shorthalt, I beat you at your own song. Now I come to take your dignity. Now take up your sword.
I don't want to fight you, if that's what you're insinuating. If you're here to fight me, I'm afraid you're going to be terribly disappointed, because I will just let you kill me if that's what it takes. Among my many faults, ego is certainly one of them, and knowing you're part of me makes me love you even more.
Make a persuasion check. With advantage for that speech.
32.
No, said it won't matter.
Stab me right here if you'd like, and I will not resist. You've earned it. Take me.
You see the tear begin to roll down her cheek as her jaw clenches. And she thrusts forward. And rolls a natural one. Why? Why can't I do it? All the years building up to this, and I have the chance, and I can't do it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that you're going through this, and I'm more sorry that you're going through this by yourself.
And she begins to walk for the door. And she opens the door and looks back at you and goes, "You're still a scoundrel. I've got a lot to think about. I want to go for a walk. I need some fresh air." And she closes the door behind her.
After this very tense first interaction the two have, Kaylee leaves, gets drunk at a bar, and arrested. Scanlan goes to help them, and they have a quick heart-to-heart moment, and then the two split ways for a while. After they split ways, the world is essentially thrown into chaos by the Chroma Conclave, a collection of 4 chromatic dragons that are attempting to overthrow the world's governments. Our heroes go out to find the vestiges of divergence, and that leads them to the small town of Westrun. This town is currently being held hostage by a Goliath tribe, and once Scanlan makes his way in there sneaking around, he stumbles upon Kaylee. The two use their magic to trick these Goliaths and eventually escape with a bunch of civilians. But Scanlan stays behind with his party, while Kaylee takes the rest of them to safety. In the coming days, Vox Machina actually fells the first of the Chroma Conclave, the Black Dragon Umbrasyl. After the dragon is felled, Scanlan goes to find his daughter to make sure she got out of the city okay. After finding her, the two share a moment, and most importantly, make this promise.
I'm doing something very stupid now with my friends. We're going to try to save the world. And I didn't know why, but now I know. And if we die doing it, it will be for a good thing. And if we don't, then, well, I'll find you, and I'll be whatever kind of father you need me to be, one who's close and helpful.
She shushes you, puts her finger up and shushes you. She steps up and looks you. The hardness in her face softens, and there is a little bit of tears gathering at the edge of her eyes, and she says, "Don't you die. You stay alive."
I don't intend to, but you know, I was just inside.
You're not going to die. You're gonna go do your stupid world-saving mission like you told me, and you're gonna come back, and we're gonna have a lot to talk about.
All right.
All right? Can you do that for me?
I promise you. I promise you.
I'll hold you to that.
This is an incredibly important moment for Scanlan because it sets up his motivation for pretty much the rest of the campaign. This promise will come up very importantly later on, but for now, the two part ways again, and the party goes off to the Feywild. After gallivanting through the Feywild and finding another vestige, the party returns to the Primaterial Plane. They then have reason to travel to the city of Ank'Harel, and it is here that Scanlan's self-confidence begins to degrade. A friend of theirs who once lived in the city asked if they could pick up some
spice.
Now, the party, being who they are, immediately thought this was some sort of moniker for drugs. So, while looking for this
Spice.
Scanlan finds himself, for one of the first times in his life, being the target of deception.
So, what have you got for me?
You were asking about spice.
Again, maybe.
Specifically, if I'm to understand, 200 gold worth of fusaka.
Maybe more if it's of a higher quality.
Well, let it be known that I brought just in case twice the amount. It is difficult to acquire this. I would say one for 250, or both for 400 gold.
Fair enough. 400 it is.
400. And he takes the other satchel and is about to push it forward, and is seemingly waiting.
For me to pay him? Sure, I'll drop 400 large. And just so I'm clear here, this is a drug, right?
Of course it is.
Oh, really? Really?
Hi.
Oi, how you doing?
I'm looking for a meal. I'm a little homesick. I'm hoping you have a meal that maybe has some fusaka in it.
Got a bit over here. It's a bit pricey, but
Oh, it is a pricey spice here?
a bit at least for what it's worth. You only want to use bits and pieces in the meats.
Right.
Use too much and it spoils the flavor.
No one lies to the meat man. I want to go back to that place and get my revenge. Are you with me, Vax?
Why do you need revenge?
Can he make? Does he have to make another Constitution check at this point?
No, you pretty much figured out at this point that it is just a
Yay!
flavoring
Here's the
spice.
thing. I thought it's an expensive spice. Maybe it was
was
worth
entirely
however
fresh
much
in
you
your
spent
price
on it.
book.
Tell me how much you spent on this.
Like 50.
Oh, 50 gold. That's a lot, but I think it should be fine.
Spent 50 gold on this. Good God.
It is from there that every action he takes while in this city seems to somehow bite him in the ass. All of these actions begin to make him feel doubtful about his own abilities, and eventually that does bleed into something like combat or high-intensity situations. The perfect example for that is when Scanlan approaches Jared to give him the spice and see if he can persuade him to find him some actual drugs somewhere else in the world. He not only confesses he feels less confident, but he is trying to cope with that through drugs.
I have 2 people I know that might be able to get what you need, but it's going to take time.
I don't have time.
When did you pick up this habit?
I
I'm
haven't
worried
picked
about
it up.
you now,
I'm trying
Scanlan.
to pick it up. Damn it! It's the most difficult habit to pick up. I just haven't felt myself recently. You know, we have these fights, and some of them are pretty epic, and there's monsters involved, and I'm usually on my game, but lately I'm just feeling a little off. But the problem here, Jared, is that I'm distracted. I'm distracted by things that haven't ever distracted me before. I've made a promise to someone to stay alive. I've never valued my own life before, and when we get into the shit, I'm second-guessing things. I'm making stupid decisions that I wouldn't have otherwise made.
Because suddenly you have purpose.
Exactly.
Because you have a reason to come back.
Yes.
Don't forget, you have more than just one reason to stick around.
I know, that's what worries me.
Get me some drugs!
It was the Halloween episode, that's why they're all dressed weird. Moving forward after this conversation, we see a lot of moments where Scanlan acts not on the current situation, but on the promise he made to his daughter. The best example I could find was in the battle on the fire plane with the Pit Fiend. It was a very hard fight, barely anyone's spells worked on this thing, and then Scanlan did this.
Pike is dead.
Unconscious.
Yeah, but I can't leave her.
Shove her through the mansion.
Don't become another
But
liability.
if you move her, he'll get an attack of opportunity on her. It's what we ran into with.
The thing is,
do?
I've
On
made
her
a
too?
I've made a
Yeah.
promise to stay alive, so I'm going to run away.
Okay.
Oh shit.
Oh, shit.
That's good. Role play. Sorry, I just have to say that. The middle of a very tense situation, you know the right call, but to the detriment of that, you play your character. Mwah, chef's kiss. Love that shit. You see that he's taking this promise seriously, and it is at the forefront of his mind, even in these very tense situations. After they return from the fireplane to the prime material, they are prepping themselves to take on Thordak. They do that, vanquish Thordak, and it actually turns out that Raishan was probably the greater threat the whole time. This deceptive green dragon strikes the last 2 blows against Scanlan's ego that send us directly into the Bard's Lament. Because not only in the first combat against Raishan, but actually both combats against Raishan, Scanlan dies. Not just knocked unconscious or at 0 hit points. Scanlan fully dies and needs to be revivified in both of these instances.
I need... So Scanlan...
No!
Scanlan
God
is
fucking damn it.
frozen, covered in ice, locked in place. A solid gnome, bereft of life, motionless on the ground.
I died as I lived. Hard.
With your shitty
Now
retort.
just 3 more attacks to dodge, and I'll be okay.
That was the fight, wasn't it?
8.
Let's just...
Let's just call it.
Yeah, you're unconscious
Yeah.
Unconscious.
now. And the last final claw attack has advantage, which hits you, and it's a crit. So you lose 2 death saving throws. That ends Raishan's turn. Scanlan, death saving throw.
Oh my god, oh my god.
3.
And with that,
Hold on.
the breath escapes Scanlan's lungs, the smile across his face as life leaves his form.
This time I died with a bad joke and piss all over me.
Both of those deaths shatter his already very weak self-confidence. If you're in multiple fights in a row and you die in all of them, you're not going to think very highly of yourself. And it's being resurrected from that second death where we kick into the Bard's Lament. Now, in order to help with the resurrection ritual, Vex actually goes in search of Kaylee so that she can bring her back and hopefully have her help in the resurrection ritual. And because of this, Kaylee sees that her father, now being dead, has broken that promise he fought so hard to keep. Now, the resurrection was very successful, in no small part due to Kaylee's performance. Now, Scanlan realizes his daughter has just bared witness to his broken promise, so it is right after he asks her to leave that we pick up with this scene.
Who got Kaylee? Who brought Kaylee here?
Vex did.
Down on the bed with you. Well, it just seemed like the logical thing to do, dear.
Why the fuck would you do that?
Right. Well, because you see.
I promised her I wasn't going to die, and you showed her my dead body. You thought that was a good idea?
What? You'd rather she just discover it on her own?
No, I'd
This
rather
way
she
she had-
never know.
You think it's bad that she cares about you?
I think it's bad that she thinks that I'm an oath breaker, that I am weak, that I failed in my promise to her,
Scanlan.
that everything she thought of me when she found me is confirmed now, that I can't be trusted and I can't protect her.
The fact that she showed up here and saw that you gave your life for a greater cause, that's so much more important than any promise you made.
I hope that's true.
I think it is.
As he realizes that it was his friends who brought his daughter here to witness his broken promise, all of those buried emotions begin to flow out of him. Everything he's kept hidden from his friends for so long begins to come to the surface. He begins to talk about all the times they've helped other members of the party, yet no one has ever cared enough to ever help him.
I don't have many things that I care about, and I don't have anything that cares about me.
That's a lie.
That is bullshit.
Definitely
Full
untrue.
bullshit.
What? You think you care about me?
Yeah.
Yes, asshole, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, you're right. You like me because I make jokes and I play songs and I give you a warm place to stay at night and I feed you fucking chicken and I heal you in battle. But you don't really care about me. Come on, let's be honest with each other. You don't really give a shit about me,
I've
do you?
changed my outlook on life because of you. What the fuck are you talking about? Of course we all love you. You could crush me
Prove it.
in a second.
Prove it.
How?
What do you want us to do?
We traveled into the fucking 9 hells to get Pike a suit of armor. We went and battled a city of vampires so Percy could feel good about his name. We fought Goliaths for grog. We've traveled across planes of existence so you could fix your fucking daddy issues. But you've never done anything for me. Ever. You've never risked anything. You don't know me. You don't know anything about me. What's my mother's name?
Those 4 words will be very hard to top as the most powerful words I've ever heard someone say while playing a tabletop game. So before I go any further into why this was such an impactful moment, I'd like to talk about my own experience with the show and this moment. I owe a lot of who I am right now in my life to this show's impact on me. Without it, I never would have gotten to role-playing games. I wouldn't have met some of my great friends I have now. I wouldn't be doing the things I'm doing, which are all fantastic, and I couldn't imagine my life without. When I first saw this show, I sat down and watched the first 3 episodes, and then I immediately went out and bought the Player's Handbook, the DMG, and the Monster Manual. I sat at a computer in front of these nerdy-ass voice actors as they told their story, and I sat there with my books learning not only how the game worked, but how to work the game. Matthew Mercer taught me so much about being a DM and leading that game for a table of players. And from each of the players, I learned a different aspect of what it means to sit at someone's table, or how to create an interesting character and respect your fellow players. I watched 60 episodes in less than 2 weeks. I had caught up to the 60th episode when it was live, which was actually their first live show when they were in the Feywild. I couldn't watch every Thursday live because I live in Massachusetts, and that show starts at 10 p.m. here. I have work the next day. So every Friday I would get home from work and watch the VOD. So it was in that moment where those 4 words dropped, "What's my mother's name?" that I realized I had no idea. And I had been binging and consuming this show nonstop for weeks. So if I didn't know, I was goddamn sure that no one at that table knew. And that's when it hit me. All of them realized that they had never even asked his mother's name. Hell, I'd bet money that Matt didn't know in that moment what her name was. Now, did this moment come out of nowhere? Yes and no. And I think the important distinction is to the characters in the story. It did very much come out of nowhere. Now, to the audience and the players at the table, it didn't. And that's an important distinction to make. The players saw him spiraling and asking for drugs and all this other stuff, but their characters never saw that. So when this moment happened, all of the characters responded the way they realistically should in life. And I think that's amazing.
Nobody knew that any of this was going on. How many times have we asked you if you're all right and you just laugh and joke? We can't help you if you don't tell us what's going on.
Scanlan, do you think any of us could have gotten here without each other? I thought you knew that more than the rest of us. I
thought you were the only one who had everything figured out.
I did too.
Well, then I must be a very good liar.
You are. You are.
They were all realistically hurt and surprised and a bit angry to hear the words Scanlan was saying towards them. And that's very good role play. Now, I do have to take a moment here to mention one incredibly above and beyond character reaction to this. Because a lot of them were getting angry and getting very emotional, but I have to give it to Travis Willingham for how Grog reacted.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah. No, I will not go whoring with you one more time.
No, I was going to ask you what your mother's name is.
It's Juniper.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
Thank you for asking.
That is such a good moment for Grog. I'm sorry, but it is above and beyond what you could ever hope for. It shows what an actual good friend Grog was to Scanlan. It's almost the reverse of everything Scanlan is saying. That's how you hope your friend reacts to this sort of news coming to them. Apologizing and immediately doing better. Perfect. There are so many great moments across both the different campaigns that I could point to and say, that was a great moment, that was excellent role-playing, and it would take years to do, and I'm not going to film those videos. But I just wanted to talk about this one because it did mean so much to me. I saw a lot of myself, actually, in Scanlan's reaction to his friends, saying that he was just a funny man who made them chicken and healed them and all this other shit. It makes a lot of sense to me as someone who's been told I'm very funny. Often I have those feelings of, oh, well, you just invite me to things that make you laugh. That's fine. That's cool. Whatever. Assholes. Campaign 3 has not yet aired, so I don't know what the future of Critical Role is going to look like. I am very hopeful that the people I have come to know sitting around that table, I trust them with important decisions, and their intentionality in most things has always been very apparent to me. In my experience. That being said, no show is perfect, and no show is without its faults. Do I think they can do better? Absolutely. Do I think they should implement changes? 100%. I think representation across the board in Critical Role would be absolutely phenomenal, and if I'm being honest, it's probably their ideal goal. My only hope for the show is that no matter who ends up sitting at that table, no matter what changes they make to the show, all that stays the same is a bunch of nerdy-ass people sitting at a table, enjoying each other's company, and telling a fantastic story like this one. That's what Critical Role is to me.